Hi Tom, welcome back in the studio.
Thanks, Kevin.
One of my favorite topics of the year, we're going to trend watch, or isn't that a verb? I don't know.
Yeah, to trend watch. I trend watch, you trend watch.
But yeah, you are a trend watcher, and you brought us again 4 very interesting trends you see on the horizon. The first one we're going to start with is alt tech.
Yeah.
But I think you first need to explain what the hell is that?
What the hell is that? Alt tech is a new social media platforms where there is a space for communication, where there is no canceling. It's really the freedom to speech.
No moderation at all.
No moderation at all. And the reason why this is starting to happen is that social media platforms like Twitter, like Facebook, YouTube, even Pinterest need to ban some accounts because there is some people of course you all know Trump, and I think that was one of the. I know that that time CEO of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, it's a really wonderful guy. He had a vision that the freedom of speech is really, really important. And that was really into the DNA of Twitter. And I think that's why also one of the reasons that it's very active in Bitcoin and blockchain. But then there was Trump. And so suddenly he had to quit someone, abandon. And I think most of us kind of understand why he did this. But of course, they didn't abandon him just for an hour or a day, but just for life. And that's kind of weird, because then there is a social network, a social platform that can decide who has a voice and who hasn't a voice.
Yeah, and in the case of Trump, maybe that's clear, or you're against it. It's also possible. But when it comes to normal people, it can be a very, very thin line.
Yeah, it can be a very thin line. And I like the idea, the CEO of Spotify once said that canceling voices is a very slippery slope. Yeah. Because where do you begin and where do you end? I think that not all people, but a lot of us understand why you do this with Trump. But for instance, in Pinterest, if you upload a picture that might have another vision about sustainability and climate change than Pinterest use, then you can be cancelled. Now the question is, what kind of pictures are that? And when are you misinforming? When are you putting wrong information to create something, to change something, to create chaos? Or when are you just the clown? The person who is like, you know what, but maybe this is an opportunity, or I think differently. So I think it's indeed a very slippery slope. I have my son this summer had some problems with TikTok because the AI system detected in his little movies a nipple. And it was a few times that it detected nipples, and that apparently is not legal. So it came to me like, damn, when it detects one more time, then I will be cancelled. So me as a parent, I can't say what he can do or can't do, but a platform, in this case TikTok, based in Beijing with Chinese DNA culture, is deciding what my son can do or not do, can wear or not wear, can say or not can say. And it's the same thing with Twitter or Pinterest and so on.
And is it the human deciding, or is it just an algorithm, which makes it even more challenging?
Yeah.
But the reason where you're talking about this is a trend which is happening, and especially now also Elon Musk is taking over Twitter and so on. It's a very hot topic. But where do you see the link with the event industry?
Well, first for the Elon Musk, Elon Musk wants to buy this because he's an absolutely free speech evangelist. So he really wants to have this free speech. Kanye West is now abandoned from Twitter, and
he also
West, he also Kanye and he also not going to buy Twitter, but he's going to buy Parler, and Parler is an example of an alt-tech movement. You have Rumble, you have Parler, all those new social media networks that are free to use, where there is no cancellations happening, that's not okay, because if you go to those type of networks, having the freedom to speak out is just a bunch of racism and a bunch of sexism and so on. It's not okay. And then you see that you kind of need some type of moderation to give a safe space so people can open up and freely speech. So you need this type of moderation. And I think today, this is for social media networks. But also the event is a space where people can think and can speak out. You have keynote speakers and you have companies that want to give a certain statement. So what will you do as an event organizer? Will you choose freedom of speech without moderation? Then you have the Parler and all those new type of social networks that are popping up as a reaction to the way Twitter and so is evolving. Or do you want to be Twitter and Facebook that is really moderating and really fighting misinformation or just wicked ideas that are out there? Or do you try to moderate it? Like please understand what's happening, give safe space, create safe spaces for everyone so people can speak up. Speak freely.
It's a very difficult balance, because on the one side, freedom of speech is very important. On the other side, spreading misinformation and so on is also very dangerous. So it's very hard. You are a popular speaker at events. Did you ever get a question from an organizer to avoid certain topics or?
Yeah. 10 years ago to 5 years ago, it was most of the time sustainability. Please don't talk about sustainability. Past 2-3 years is most of the time don't talk about Muslims and don't talk about blockchain. Those are now the two key topics that sometimes event organizers, and most of the time it's not because they have problems with those topics, it's because they're afraid of what the audience will say about feelings and
how do you feel as a speaker when an organizer asks you not to talk about?
I try to convince them to do it well. So, for instance, when you talk about diversity, if you look at city of Antwerp, 75% of our children under the age of 10, they have an other origin. If you don't understand this, you're going to have big problems within 10 years. Not only finding people for your colleagues, your workforce, but also your consumers and your B2B relationships. If you operate on a worldwide scale by 2030, what is the number? 1 out of 3 people will be Muslim. If you work on an international platform company, you need to understand and be prepared for this. So I try to convince them, like, again, with blockchain, the same thing. I know it has a possibility to disrupt a lot of industries. And I know that some people think that they can earn a lot of money very fast and that they're going to fail really, really bad in that. But I know that, but just shutting the voices is not going to help us. So I think it is because it's starting to become really sensitive in our society. I think as an event organizer, you need to be prepared. You need to think about what is our role and what will you choose. And we go from the one hand scanning more and more and more, and the other hand everything free. And I think both are not okay. And we need some type of moderation, because if people are able to yell at you and to say, I'm going to kill you when I see you, and so on and so on, then you don't create a safe space. So can people speak up and free their mind? Yeah.
I don't think we are gonna find the answer here, unfortunately, but it is really interesting to start thinking about this because it will become more and more important in the next few years, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think it is normal that people start questioning, like, how is it possible that a company from the United States can decide what we will do and what we will think, and that there is some kind of counter effect to that. And the event industry is also a space where people speak up. So they're going to be part of that discussion. Yeah.
Up to the next trend. Lab-grown food.
Yeah, it's something that started to fascinate me 2 years ago. First time I get introduced to the idea of meat at that time being created in labs was a few years back, and that was really expensive, and like the meat was really small. But now today, if you just take a little bit of cow, just a little bit, like a little pepper ball, like very small, and the cow will not feel anything. Like maybe the cat's but
that's about it.
That's about it.
She will live.
Yeah, she will live. So you take a little bit of the cow, and then you put it in a bioreactor. And at this moment, within 6 weeks, we have 80,000 burgers. And that's insane, and it's delicious. And it is just a natural element. Like it is wonderful. It has possibilities, not now, but give it some time. When it's legalized, because it's very illegal, but when it's starting to get legalized, and when there are more and more companies that are kind of focus on this, that we could eat meat, but also we could eat fish. Because they're not only creating meat out of it, but also fish, tuna, salmon, like fish that maybe are, well, you shouldn't eat anymore. Tuna, but
yeah, indeed.
So here we can create fish in labs where we live, in our cities. So the distribution is not coming from the other side of the world. It's just where we actually are living, even maybe underground, and recreate our meat and our fish, but also our cheese and our milk, because we can now already, just from that same element of a cow, we can create milk out of it. So it has a lot of opportunities there. We see there's an enormous amount of startups rising in California, focused on fish. In Singapore, it's already legalized. And that's normal because almost 90% in Singapore of food is important. So they really need
they need it.
They really need it. From European perspective, I don't know when it will be on top of our agenda on a political level, because it's illegal. And of course, we're not importing 90% of our food. But it has a lot of opportunities. The cow doesn't feel a thing. So if you're a vegetarian today and you don't eat meat because you don't like the idea that cows are being murdered, well, in this case, you can eat meat, and maybe there's a QR code, so you can scan the QR code and you can see where your cow is still walking around.
With a webcam on it.
Yeah, woo, it's cool. Or are you doing this from a more sustainable perspective? We will not need so many cows anymore, and we can work more and more just with this little piece of meat. So it has enormous possibility worldwide, also for Europe, also for Belgium. And it will not be the only solution for our food problem, because we have a food problem. If you think about it, by 2050, we need to double our food production. That's impossible. We don't have the amount of space to do this. And it's also not positive for our climate. So we really need to find solutions, and plant-based food is a solution, and more food coming from the seas is a solution. But this is also part of the solutions: lab-grown meat, fish, cheese, milk.
Yeah, and the event industry is very aware of the fact that something needs to be done about food, also for ecological reasons, and this can be one of the pieces coming up.
Yeah, it's definitely not the answer, but it's one of the pieces. And for instance, if you look at meat, you can take elements out of it that might be bad for you, and we can add elements that are way better to you. So, do you need to be scared? Because like I'm a meat lover, so I really love meat. I don't eat meat that much, but I really love meat. But I think I'm also a wine lover, and I enjoy my wine, but I don't drink wine every day. I taste wine. And I think for meat is the same. Most meat, it will be plant-based or will be maybe lab-created. But if you are an event and you want to create an extreme experience, you can use meat, but then it will be tasting. Like we taste different types of wine, we will taste different types, high-quality meats. And then your chicken nuggets and your currywursten will be just
some of the chicken nuggets already look like they are lab grown, but that's another discussion, I think. The next topic we had on the agenda is audio healing.
Yeah.
What is that about?
Yeah, audio healing. Music is very important for the event industry, and I think that most of your audience knows that if you wanna get people in a happy mood, play ABBA. Like everybody loves ABBA. Like or power up the beats when your heart needs to stop. Right? You can influence the way people feel thanks to music. Okay. But now there's been more and more scientific research that you can help people with stress relief or pain relief through music or through sound. And a very good example is Nurofen. Nurofen is a medical medicine. If you have pain, you can use. If you have a headache, you can Nurofen. And Nurofen now created a playlist together with scientists and musicians. And they say, well, now, before you take your medicine, first listen to our playlist. Because the playlist is designed to help you relieve the pain. And if that's not working, well, then take our medicine.
But that's really fascinating. We already knew that music has indeed a big impact on emotions and how people feel, and that you can play with that to build an experience on an event. But if music can have such an impact that it could relieve a headache, if we think more about the music we play, what impact could we have on people on a conference or whatever?
Yeah, it is the beginning of a new industry, I think. But it's very interesting to follow. For instance, spatial immersive sound. They now experimented during COVID with in hospitals. They created special spaces for nursery people. So if they want to just have some 5 minutes or 10 minutes cool down, then they could listen to their sounds, and their sound were so designed that it takes your stress and pain away. So I think it has a lot of opportunities for not only like beats and pumping up the heartbeat, but also
has an effect.
Also, it definitely has an effect. But also just to calm down and to unstress or give people time to focus or to deal with the information overload. And I think it's maybe, well, this is one part of the story, but also the idea of sound, and that we maybe after COVID we became that there's more attention to sound. Because we've been at home so much. Most of us are still a lot of the days at home. And at home, it's way more silent. And if you go to an event space where there is bad acoustics, people get annoyed. And it's not only in the event space, it's also in offices, in restaurants. And we see more and more that people are more aware of sound and the noise of a city or the noise of an event. So I think that we need to be more careful what kind of sound that you use, and do not only use the pumping pop hits of the moment, but also start exploring Sona app or all those new type of companies that really, from a scientific perspective, try to combine sound with well-being.
Very interesting trend. The last one, people might be wondering why there is a flying car on the screen all the time. It is for a reason. It is our last topic.
Yeah. It's not easy today to be a futurist, trend watcher, because most of us are just surviving. And we have all those creepy visions about possibilities of our financial systems and war, and it's the future doesn't look that bright. But I think there are ways to start dreaming again. And flying cars is one of it. Because when you think about futurism, like in the beginning in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, and definitely also in the 60s, people were dreaming of technology that was like really going to change everything. And flying cars was always been part of it.
Yeah, as a child, I looked at Back to the Future.
Yes.
That was the image of the future, a flying car.
And I think that the future looked better in the past than today. But I think flying cars will arrive soon. So maybe in the past, the future looked better. Maybe today or the next months or years it's going to change, and we can maybe slightly embrace a little bit. I know it's difficult today, but some more positive dreams towards the future. And flying cars, but it's kind of
technology is here.
It's technology. It's here already. It's being used. It's being tested. Probably by 2024, that's within 2 years. When you're in Rome, when you arrive in Rome, you can take a flying car from the airport to the city center. It only has space for 2 persons and no luggage. So you can't take your luggage with you. But those are first steps. I know Slovenia wants to already launch a flying taxi now later this year. I know Slovakia, it will launch by 2016 a 4-person taxi. So there are companies, of course, Dubai and the heli spaces on top of that. So I think if you have a future event space in mind, not
think
tomorrow,
about the hill of that.
but start thinking about mobility. We've been stuck for decades in our car, and the solution might be going faster than we think.
Yeah, because right now, what we are already seeing is that some event spaces start using autonomous driving shuttles to and from the parking, for example. Yeah. That's the first step.
Yeah, I know in Belgium you have, for instance, Ush, the little autonomous bus. I think that my first experience with autonomous car was already 6 or 7 years ago with Audi. Raced 304 kilometers an hour, and nobody was driving. And
scary.
That was scary, but that was a really great, mind-blowing experience, because then at that time, 7 years ago, and said, okay, well, the technology is here. But I think that past 6, 7 years, the innovation stopped a bit because the rest of us was not ready. And we're as consumers, we're not ready there. We are not yet ready to jump into autonomous cars or autonomous buses, even definitely not autonomous flying cars. We did research with Group M, I think it was beginning of last year. And we ask for people who have in their car elements of autonomous cars. So the car is not autonomous, but for instance, the car can park itself. The car has lane assisted adaptive cruise control, and we just ask who of you is using it, and apparently those people are just not using it, and there are several reasons why they're not using it. They love to park on themselves. That's really, and that's the automatic, like for decades some countries were already shifted to automatic, but we still wanted to really
manual gear
that we like to drive. Yeah. And the same thing you see, like we don't like that the robot will park a car. No, we want to do it on our own. And the autonomous lane assistant, adaptive cruise control, a lot of people shut it down because they have the feeling that they drive backwards at the end, because the car is always giving space to the other car, and then other cars just start jumping in between, and then
so
suddenly you have the feeling that you're driving backwards. And so people don't like it, and then they assume that they as a person know better how to drive, so they can just drive bumper to bumper on the railroad, like on the road, like I'm driving 120, 130 kilometers an hour, just right behind another car. And then the question is, who knows better, you as an individual, or the technology that understands that you need some time of space to go on the brakes to not have an accident. And I know that a lot of people think that they are better, but I doubt that. I doubt that.
But even like you're saying, and that's totally true, that we're still not there yet as humans. The technology is there. Yeah. It is coming. And if you're building, like you say, an event venue today, you better start thinking about these things. Yeah. Or you will need to revamp everything in a few years.
Yeah. No, I think I also hope so, because like I'm almost on a daily basis going to events, and you're all the time stuck in traffic, and like we really need to come up with good solutions for mobility. And some people discuss that autonomous cars will not have that good influence on our railroad. I don't know. I don't know. I think it will, because you will have less accidents. Most of the time, they're smarter than us. But yeah, the most important thing here is, and then go a little bit further than just autonomous cars or flying cars, is the idea that maybe we can start dreaming again. And for me, this is also very nostalgic. And then I also think about ABBA, because ABBA is pure nostalgia. But now nostalgia, ABBA is playing 3 times a day in London. 3 times. They're not there.
The holograms in the theater.
Yeah, there's avatars. And it's a wonderful experience, truly futuristic for every generation. And I think that if you asked most people there a year ago, would you like to go to an avatar who's going to sing? And they will say, no way, that's too futuristic, that's too cold, that's not a
real thing.
That's not a real thing. And now 3 times a day in London, people go to something that's pure nostalgic, but they can laugh, have fun, dream and dance. And maybe that's more important than just only the vision of a flying car. It's just the idea that the future might look better, and maybe that keeps us going forward.
But I think that's an interesting or a beautiful quote to stop the episode with, is to start dream again.
Yeah, it's not easy today, but we need to do this. And if you want to have like a tip, like a trick to do this, most of the time when we talk about the future, we talk in terms of less. We're going to eat less meat. You're going to travel less.
Sounds boring, eh?
Yeah, sounds. Your next cola is less sugar. You know, like all the time.
That's a good thing, maybe.
Yeah. No, but what is in it? like it's all the time less. And stop talking about the future as being less. The future is just going to be different. We're not going to eat less meat. We're going to eat lab-created meat and maybe plant-based meat, and it's going to be delicious. We're not, less cars. Who cares? We're going to have one app and we're going to have access to 100 different types of cars. And every day we could choose another type of car. So it's not about less, it's about different. And maybe when you approach this way of thinking and you combine this with a bit of ABBA, maybe you'll have more positive view on the future.
All right, Tom. Thank you very much for coming over and sharing with us.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
And you at home, thank you for watching our show. I hope to see you next week.